The transfer portal is a great tool for Colorado and Deion Sanders, but even the king of the portal gets got sometimes.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. I appreciate it. We have a big one to talk about because just a couple weeks ago, or whenever Christmas was, a few weeks ago, I was talking about, a Christmas surprise. Santa came through for Coach Prime one more time, and Santa did come through at that time. He gave in under the tree for Coach Prime was a linebacker that could stop the run. That was really good, very veteran heavy, had a lot of starts under his belt, and they got DJ Lundy from Florida State. He announced that he was entering the portal, announced that he was transferring to Colorado, sat out of Florida State's bowl game against Georgia, which, didn't miss much there. And then all of a sudden today, which is Wednesday, January 10th, there were reports saying that Lundy had actually informed Colorado, or Florida State, I guess, informed Colorado that Lundy would not be transferring there. And he instead decided to withdraw his name from the transfer portal, which means he will, in fact, not be playing for Colorado next season. He will be suiting up for the Florida State Seminoles for one final year. And obviously it's his decision, so you got to respect his decision. It's a career move that he thinks is best for him. Florida State obviously had a great season this year. Didn't end how they would have liked it to, but was obviously a decision that he felt was right. But if you're Colorado, this hurts, and this hurts a lot. I've been talking about Colorado killing it in the portal this offseason. They've gotten a corner, which I talked about 2 days ago, that will probably start opposite Travis Hunter. I think he just bumped Omarion Cooper and Cormani McClain down on the depth chart, and I think DJ McKinney or Dylan McKinney, whatever he prefers to go by, I think the Oklahoma State transfer will be starting opposite Travis Hunter until he loses that spot. Colorado obviously had some issues defending the pass for people not named Travis Hunter, and even Travis Hunter had some issues last season, as we saw against Stanford, as we saw against Arizona. Happens. They also went out and got some offensive linemen. They landed 5 offensive line transfers. They get Jordan Seaton, so 6 offensive linemen, plus Tyler Brown, who didn't play last season. So they had like 7 new offensive linemen, technically, to replace what was one of the worst units in all of college football. And then they get a few, I think it was 5 is the number, defensive line transfers, which is huge because they were not physical enough on the line. They were pushed around constantly. They were horrible against the run. And life was difficult if you were an offensive or defensive lineman at Colorado last year. And Coach Prime addressed those needs. And then he went out and got one of the Wade twins from Kentucky, who plays linebacker, and then followed that up with DJ Lundy from Florida State, who, mind you, graded as one of the best linebackers in all of college football. If you look at his grades, according to PFF, he had a 77.6 overall grade, but where he really stood out was his run defense grade. He had a 90.9 run defense grade, which is obviously that was the highest on the team for Florida State. He was electric against the run. Was really kind of their, I guess you could say, their anchor in run defense. He only had 2 missed tackles the entire year, giving him a 3.4% missed tackle percentage, which again was the best on Florida State's team. They obviously will benefit greatly from him returning. Sorry, I had a sneeze there. But obviously, if you're Colorado, you would have loved to have that, because what was Colorado's problems last season? Well, they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't tackle anybody, and they weren't that effective in any aspect of the defensive game. Outside of Travis Hunter and Shiloh Sanders, who was a big hitter, they really had no, I guess, playmakers. And so you look at what Colorado does at linebacker now. Let me talk to you about who's returning back. Obviously, Jeremiah Brown was someone who had a 54.4 run defense grade. Demoy Kennedy is someone who should step up. I think Demoy Kennedy was expected to have a larger role last season, only played in 6 games. He had, and this is how you know their run defense was really bad, he had the highest grade of all the linebackers against the run with a 62.5. Now, granted, he played less snaps, but again, they need some help there. Noah Young played in one game. Marvin Ham, who left, is no longer with the team. He had a 56.7. Brandon Gant had a 36.8 in the 2 games he played. Levante Bentley, 47.8. Jawan Mitchell had a 68.8 in the 5 games he played. But obviously, one, he's no longer part of the team because of he's out of eligibility. But two, clearly, as we saw in the documentary, Coach Prime was not thrilled with him, and it seemed like there was more that met the eye there. So Colorado needs to realistically go out and get another linebacker transfer, if not a couple. There's no way to bounce around it. They didn't bring any in their recruiting class, so that didn't help because their recruiting class currently sits at 6 people, and they went offensive lineman, receiver, defensive line, running back, and then transfers. They have obviously wide receiver, corner, offensive tackle, defensive line, quarterback. So they need linebackers, and there's quite a few linebackers that are still available. Austin Hardenow from Washington just entered his name into the portal. Let's take a look at the top ranked guys, though. Obviously, we don't want to just bring in any Joe Schmo if you're Colorado, because I think that was kind of the problem last year was they brought in, I won't say Joe Schmoes, but they were bringing in anybody that had interest in Colorado was essentially welcome to Colorado. And obviously that's not effective. That's not an effective way of recruiting by any means. You look at the portal right now, the top 2 linebackers that are ranked are Ozzie Nicholas from Princeton, which, I mean, he'd be a high intelligent guy. He's obviously an FCS Ivy League transfer. Does that translate? And then Nakai Hill Green from Charlotte. So there's probably going to be more guys that enter their name into the portal come springtime. But if you're Colorado, this is a huge loss. Now, obviously, DJ Lundy wasn't going to fix the run defense by himself. He needed the defensive line to step up. He needed the safeties to come up and play better. But I will say it is a tough loss for Colorado. They kind of have to regroup and figure out where things are going. But if there's any program in the country that can lose a transfer portal player and then probably go get 1 or 2 to replace him, it's this Colorado program. Coach Prime has thrived in the portal. As I talked about the past couple of days, I think he's formed probably the best wide receiver core in college football, or at least top 5. I think he's also formed one of the better corner duos with Travis Hunter and DJ McKinney. So if there's anyone that could bounce back from this, it'd be Colorado. But I will say it's a tough loss to the portal. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about what they need to address in the portal, because there's still some positional needs that I think they should attack. And then I'm going to talk about what Cat Williams had to say. But first, a word from our sponsors over at LinkedIn. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move that I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I got my first job out of college using LinkedIn. I graduate, get my master's in sports journalism. I'm like, I need to go somewhere. Where do I go? Find the Pac-12 network. I find their job hiring. Connect with the hiring manager. Bada bing, bada boom. We connect. I end up working there. Led to great connections. Had a great time there. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates, so easy that, in fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours of their job posting. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/LOCKEDONCOLLEGE to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, so don't forget that. Portal needs. Obviously, we just talked about one, linebacker. I think it was a portal need. It was a recruit need. It was an everything need because Colorado was so bad against the run. They were so bad in coverage. Those same linebackers that struggled in run defense and run support, yeah, they struggled in coverage as well. It was one of those things where you look at and you're like, oh, what was this defense good at? And the answer, not much. They could force the occasional turnover. I won't take that away from them, excuse me. But let me pull up the positional grades for linebackers. Coverage-wise, Jeremiah Brown was the best in coverage with a 74.8. Demoy Kennedy had a 32.5, which is quite disappointing for someone who kind of has experience on offense. He has that speed. He played running back at Alabama a couple times, and he was just bad in coverage. Couldn't couldn't defend the run, so need a huge step from him. Marvin Ham, no longer with the program, 64.3, solid. Brennan Gant, this is where his safety prowess comes into play, 66. Levante Bentley, the Clemson transfer, had a 50.2. Juwan Mitchell had a 48.5. And so obviously some improvement is needed there. There's going to be more guys that enter the portal after the spring or during the spring period, whatever you want to call it. I think obviously linebacker is a huge position of need, and you can't really obviously you don't want to wait that long, but if there's not a guy in the portal right now that's a take, there's going to be guys that maybe lose out on the position battle, or maybe freshmen that didn't want to or didn't really enjoy their spring enrollee or spring semester at their new program. It happens all the time. But I think that's another position that they need to, or that's the main position they need to focus on. And then another one, I think it's more underrated for Colorado, but you improve the offensive line, you improve the receiver room, you get a new tight end, you improve the defensive line, which I mean, you could get more defense linemen, it never hurts. You improve the secondary, you get, like I mentioned, McKinney, you get Preston Hodge from Liberty, excuse me. What are we doing with the running back situation? I mean, obviously, we know they have Alton McCaskill, who didn't play much this past season. He was injured, probably shouldn't have returned from what I gathered. It just kind of seemed like he wasn't ready physically to be taking the, I want to say the beating, but he wasn't ready to hop into game action. He had just 14 carries in garbage time, 59 yards on the season. And then you have Dylan Edwards, who's a little undersized. I think he'd be a great slot receiver. I don't know if he's an every down back. And so you have a undersized running back. You have a running back who hasn't really played a meaningful snap since 2021, I think it is, for Alton McCaskill. His freshman year at Houston, whatever year that was. Let me see. I'll pull it up. I guess I don't have to guess. I could look things up right in front of my face. Yeah, he hasn't played a meaningful snap since 2021. So that'd be a small undersized running back, a running back who's been injured for 2 years, essentially. Stevion Wilkerson, who I think he did fine. He's had a great deal of production at Jackson State. He did well at Delaware State. Actually led the team in rushing touchdowns this season for running backs. Is he an every down back, though? I don't know. And then after that, you have Charlie Offerdahl, who's a walk-on, but you lose Hankerson to Oregon State, and then you lose Courvoisier Smoke to obviously just eligibility issues. He is no longer, his clock has run out for his career in college football. And either way, he didn't really do much last season anyway. He had 2 carries for -2 yards, which I think was a total misusage of him by the offense. He clearly had something at Kentucky. It just needed a chance to get more running time, and obviously 2 carries for -2 yards wasn't what any of us expected. Probably wasn't what he expected either. But running back is a major need for Colorado. I think a lot of people get lost in the fact that, yes, you have Shedeur Sanders. Yes, you have that wide receiver corps that I think could be one of the best in the country. But you don't want Shedeur dropping back 35 times a game and not having a run game to rely on. I think people mixed up last season. They were like, Colorado runs the ball. This happened all the time in my arguments. They were basically arguments in my comment section. People would be like, they can run the ball. They're choosing not to. And it was like, no, they can't run the ball. Like, technically, they can turn around and hand the ball off. But what was happening, as I talked about in yesterday's episode, was Colorado's offense line was one of the worst in allowing contact before the line of scrimmage. So Colorado's running backs were constantly getting hit behind the line of scrimmage, and that is not a recipe for success. Obviously, you want to give them running lanes. You want to give them gaps. You just give them a second to figure out where they're going before there's a defensive lineman in their lap, and they weren't able to do that. So they improved the offense line. They improved the receivers. I still think going out into the portal and getting another running back would be huge for this team. Obviously, they're not going to get Quinshon Judkins, who transferred from Ole Miss to Ohio State, but there's guys like Roydell Williams, played some quality snaps at Alabama. Let me pull up his stats. Obviously, a lot of these SEC guys might just end up at another SEC school, but he's a name that stands out to me. 111 carries for 560 yards, 5 touchdowns. A senior, experienced guy. Over his career at Alabama, has nearly 300 carries, I think the number is. Yeah. So he had 111, 56 carries a year prior, 48 the year prior. He's experienced. You go out and get him, maybe get a physical runner. You also There's Rashad Amos from the University of Miami, Ohio. I think running back is one of those positions where obviously having someone from the Power Five would help because they have that Power Five experience. But Rashad Amos is a multiple year investment for Colorado. He's listed as a sophomore, so next year will be his junior year. 6'2", 234. He had 210 carries this past season for 1,075 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns. Started his career at South Carolina. Then you look at a name like Logan Diggs, who spent this past season at LSU. Obviously, again, SEC experience. It didn't work out for him at LSU. He's 6'1", 215. Started his career at Notre Dame. Had 119 carries this past season for 653 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5.5 yards per carry. I'm seeing CJ Stokes in the comments from Michigan. Yeah, that's another good one. I don't care who it is, really. Colorado needs more running back depth. Obviously, Michael Welch is a freshman. But again, if you go out and get a transfer portal running back that has experience, I think that puts the running back room, the offense, in a better scenario. Right now, like I said, for those of you that are just joining me on the live or maybe missed it, your running back situation is currently an undersized running back who I think projects better as a slot receiver. A running back that hasn't played meaningful snaps since 2021 in Alton McCaskill. I think he could be great. I think he could return to that form, but you never know. ACL injuries are tricky. And then a freshman. That doesn't give me the most and then a walk-on as well. I like Charlie Offerdahl. I like all the potential that those guys have. But if you could just go out there and get someone who maybe has a little more experience under his belt, a proven commodity at the college level, that'd be huge. And I think that's something that Colorado should look into. So those are two positions of need that I think they should really target, which, again, linebacker, running back. You don't want to have a one-dimensional run or offense again, and you don't want to have a defense that can't stop the run. And I think those are the two positions that stand out the most to me. Comment below what you guys think, what position Colorado should get. Maybe another backup quarterback, maybe another wide receiver, which I don't think they need, but tight end, whatever. Maybe you guys comment below and we'll discuss. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, which is the best way to just find something that you weren't thinking of. Sometimes you got to think outside the box to win that dough. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find the popular parlays around the FanDuel community and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Okay, welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Okay, so Cat Williams was on the Club Shay Shay podcast recently and had a lot to say about the comedy world. And I'm going to dive in. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to dive into what he had to say about the comedy world. I think there's a lot to be said there about stories we hear, but that's not what this is about. This is Locked On Buffs, not Locked On the comedy world. He recently spoke about Coach Prime, and I think two things stood out. One, obviously having someone as famous as Cat Williams talk about you is just really cool. But two, kind of shows the impact that Coach Prime has on college football, on the college football world, that not many other coaches do, if any, really. I don't think there's a single coach out there that's routinely getting shout-outs from Dwayne The Rock Johnson, from Samuel Jackson, from Cat Williams. I think Deion Sanders is big for college football, and I think he's big for culture and Black culture, and which is really awesome to see. And he's changing things at Colorado. But Cat Williams recently talked about him, and I wanted to kind of bring it up, and so I will. So he was recently on talking with Willie D Live and talked about how he supports Deion Sanders, Coach Prime's journey from afar. He said, "I'm saying anytime a great individual, regardless of what he does, finds something that he can be great in, like that's going to work. Sanders is a motivating force and an asset. He always has been since the Jerry Curl days. Iconic. Bring back the Jerry Curl, Coach Prime. I think it would be a good look. I'm just saying. That's just my opinion, though. Continuing with Cat Williams' quote, he says, "Those are the leaders of men that we discussed earlier. An eternal optimist, someone that's clever, excuse me, and about books and hard work and discipline. You know, as a black person," this is Cat Williams talking, obviously not me, "we should be so lucky to have a black coach like that. And as a non-black person, what a great job." So, like I said, obviously Cat Williams isn't in the recruiting space for college football. But if you're a recruit and you see famous people like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like Offset, like Michael Irvin, like Terrell Owens, like Chad Ochocinco, sorry, I just spit all over my laptop. That's disgusting. Chad Ochocinco, who else? I'm feeling I'm missing people. Like there's just so many icons in pop culture, sports. Samuel L. Jackson, like I mentioned earlier, where it's like they are enamored with what Coach Prime is doing. Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, more names that come to mind as I go. And it's a great thing to see just for the cultural icon, the cultural movement. But if you're a recruit, that's huge. You're getting, I don't know how often these guys talk to the players. I'm sure they give them a little time of the day, but you're getting an opportunity to play in front of large crowds. You're getting an opportunity to make connections with some of the most famous people in the world. That's a huge, huge advantage that Coach Prime and Colorado have that not a lot of programs have. I think if you were to ask me which college football programs around college football have some sort of, I guess, appeal like this, one, there's none that have the appeal that Coach Prime has in terms of the famous people around the program. But you look at a program like Texas with Matthew McConaughey, he's always around the program. I think he's the Minister of Culture, I think is his title. Alabama, they obviously have whoever Nick Saban wants on the sideline. Bill Belichick is a big supporter there. USC, Snoop Dogg, Will Ferrell, whoever it may be. But again, none of them are as iconic as what Coach Prime is doing in Colorado. I think he's using this to his advantage. I think having the more and more famous people discuss what he's up to, the better. It's for the better of the program. It really is. I think a lot of people get caught up in the stereotypes of Coach Prime. Like when people are asking Jordan Cena if he wants to be a rapper because he wants to go to Colorado, ignore those people. Those people obviously know they have nowhere near the I guess the cred, the swagger, the approachability, the fame that Coach Prime has. And fame doesn't win football games, but sure as hell helps you attract people who can win you those football games. And so Colorado is definitely trending in the right direction. I talked about their portal needs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Locked on Buffs. I was reading some of the comments. I appreciate you guys for liking, subscribing. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. Make sure to give me 5 stars on Spotify and Apple and wherever you get your podcasts. I appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys mañana. I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. I will see you guys. This has been Locked on Buffs.